Hey there, it's John from Heroes and Legends, and welcome to another episode of the Heroes and Legends podcast. Today in the video, I have some gameplay in the background, and it's nothing major. I just wanted to try something a little bit different as I talk through the podcast, maybe give you something to watch. And the reason I chose this, actually, is because I was in a Amonkhet sealed pre-release, and I ran into Rich Hagen from WotC Coverage, and I got to play against Rich. So that's what you're seeing on the screen here, and it's actually pretty cool. I won't give away the ending or anything like that, who wins, but that will be going on as we do the podcast today. It was a fun event. I kind of wish I recorded the whole thing. I wasn't recording it. I was just trying to do it for fun. And then I came up against Rich, and I had to record it, right? So I was like, that's really awesome. I love his work on his broadcasts and everything. I think Rich Hagen does an amazing job. We talked about that before. He is a great numbers cruncher, and you need that person on the broadcast, and he does a great job. So it was really kind of fun to get to play against him. So on today's podcast, I got a few topics that I want to discuss. One of which is what's going to happen next week. In the world of Standard, we have an update to the ban list. Is something going to change? I'll give you my thoughts on all of that. Second topic today, Magic Online 15th anniversary, and what are they doing about it? They actually have some cool stuff planned, so I'll talk a little bit about that. And then finally, wrap things up with a little bit of video game talk. And usually my third segment in the podcast, I try to vary it up a little bit. Talk about some different stuff, maybe some non-Magic related stuff. But I want to talk a little bit about video games with E3 coming up. And there is a Magic the Gathering MMO that has been announced. So we'll talk a little bit about that and some video game stuff in general. But let's start off with the topic that I know is on everyone's mind who plays Standard. What's going to happen next week? So how do we get here, first off? Like, what happened? I don't know. Like, I've followed Magic for a long time. Ever since the beginning, I guess. And I've seen this type of thing before. It's funny because a lot of the things that are big talking points today, especially the last few weeks, are things we were talking about, like, 20 years ago in Magic. And I found that kind of funny because, like, a couple things, for example, Standard being kind of broken and not diverse and overpowering decks and cards. That was a huge problem back when the Urza Saga block was out. It was a huge problem back when Mirrodin was out. Another big topic that's in the news lately is the quality of Magic cards and how they seem to be inconsistent. Well, I remember when I played Magic Revised. Revised really was a horrible print run. All the cards were very faint, diluted colors, and even so much so that Magic, they actually tried to correct it, or at least thought about correcting it, by creating something called Summer Magic, which was basically a reprinting of the Revised with better coloring. And they scrapped that idea at the last minute, but some of that product actually got out and is worth a whole lot today if you happen to stumble on it, but that's another story for another day. But things like, I remember, was it Mirage? There were some, it might have been Mirage. There were a few sets early on that had different print runs from different printers. So, like, sometimes they were really, like, sharp and dark colors. Other times they were lighter colors. Arabian Nights had kind of the same thing where the mana symbols, for the colorless mana, looked very different. Some of them were, like, kind of small and dark. Others were looking more normal. Like, it was just kind of the norm back in those days. I kind of assume the quality control issues are just because Magic's printing a lot of stuff right now. Like, they're trying to add basically another set to their yearly schedule, not to mention all the other side products that they're doing. So I just think they're printing more and they need more printers, and they're settling on some folks that maybe don't have as high quality as others, or the ones they have been using. So you're seeing differences now in one print run versus another print run. The warping of cards is bad, though. That has me probably more worried than any of the coloring stuff or anything like that. You see people are opening packs of Amonkhet, and a week later, if they don't put them in binders and have, like, the silicone packs and stuff to to pull the moisture out, that they end up being warped. That's a little scary, and that's kind of sad when you spend money on cards and that happens, right? But aside from all of that, the point at hand being today, I want to talk about a standard, of course. And, we've seen this before, but we haven't seen it in a long time. So my first question is, what changed? Like, what is different about the way that the development team is testing Magic that has gotten us to this point? I mean, a few years back, I think we started to see rumblings of Standard becoming less healthy. Cards like Siege Rhino really dominated for a long time. We started to see things like, even the precursor to that, even things like Sphinx's Revelation, some of those control decks that were very powerful for a little while. I mean, nothing like we've seen recently, but there's at least a little bit of a preview of things to come if you look back. But over the last year or so, it's like there's been big misses in the development, which have led to these overpowering decks and this very restricted meta. And that's never good for the game because you paint yourself into a corner. And that's what Wizards has done at this point. They've created some powerful cards that have really dominated the format. And their only way out that's left for them to re-diversify the format, unfortunately, is to ban stuff. And that's never a good answer because players put their money into these decks, into these cards. And if you do build that deck and it gets banned, then you're out. Granted, I will admit, Standard's not as expensive today as it used to be thanks to Masterpieces and the increased print runs and so on and so forth. But it's still expensive. I mean, let's say I spent $100 on a Standard deck. And maybe in the old days I would have spent $200, but let's say I spent $100. Something major gets banned from that deck. I have to change the deck or get a new one. Now I'm spending another $75 to $100 again. That's not really fair to me because I went in thinking that it's going to have this much of a cost to be involved, and it could very easily turn you off to playing any more Standard, right? And I think that's what's happening. I think the combination of this lack of diversity in the format, and a lot of people aren't finding it fun, and secondly, the fact that the people that have kind of gone along with it and have just bought into these decks that are the powerful decks, their cards are getting banned, and now they're not having fun, and you're losing a lot of people out of Standard. A lot of folks turning to Modern. Modern's a healthy format generally right now, and Commander is another great place to go. But quite honestly, game stores can succeed selling singles and stuff, but Wizards of the Coast themselves don't really do well when too many people shift off of Standard onto other things, right? And that's a problem for them long term and could eventually impact print runs and such in the future. So the easy answer that they come up with, of course, is ban things, but it doesn't really fix the ultimate problem at the end of the day. And that is what is going on with their testing. Now, here's the deal. They work so far in advance that I'm sure they're adjusting for what's been happening over the course of the last few months, but I don't think we're going to see that for like a year or so. And that is a problem, right? It's really hard for them to kind of full stop and turn the ship, and it's going to take time. The other thing I worry about is, will they overcompensate? We've seen this in the past. Urza Saga. What happened after Urza Saga? We saw some of the dullest, blandest, non-power Magic you can imagine. Mercadian Mass Block, for example. I don't know if you've ever played that or tried to play it or placed like any sealed or draft. It's miserable. It is miserable. It's attacking with a bunch of 1/1s that cost you 2 or 3. Like, it's a bad scene. Now, I hope they've learned from that and they don't oversteer in the wrong direction. But I think it's almost inevitable. It's human nature that they're going to err on the side of safety, at least for a while. And I think we're going to see some really powered down Magic coming, maybe after we get through the anniversary and everything into the next year. So, I don't know. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? I think on some levels it's good because it doesn't cause the problems we have. But on other levels, if you go too far with that, people are going to just get bored and start doing other stuff. And you kind of find yourself in the same predicament. And you have to kind of readjust and find that middle ground. Another change they have made, though, recently is they have added some more folks to the team that are going to be focused on just testing Standard. Now, they had a small development team, really, in the scheme of things. And they were testing standard and putting a lot of their effort to in the limited game, which I'm sure takes a ton of testing to get the limited game right. And I think that was a problem. I think the limited game is super important, and they just didn't have the resources to test standard as thoroughly as they did before. But my question being, what changed? Did they lose staff members? Did they lose certain people that were really good? Because they have some good folks on the team. I mean, I definitely trust people like Melissa Torre, who has been a pro herself and a phenomenal player. Like, they have good people there. But I just kind of wonder, what's the difference? Like, we didn't see problems like this for many, many years. So hopefully the additional staffing will help this a little bit. And hopefully Magic, Wizards, Hasbro won't be afraid to throw a little bit of money at this problem, because I think it's a big deal. Now, what does that say about next week, though? Unfortunately, none of these solutions are going to help us there. I think something will be banned. Etherworks Marvel is so powerful right now that there's such a outcry of opinions on it. And because of that, and the fact that a lot of those opinions are coming from some high-profile players, some pros, I feel like Wizards has to respond. And they're going to respond by banning something. The big question is, do they ban Marvel or do they ban Ulamog? If they want to try to completely not blow the deck out of the water, and hopefully the people that did invest in the deck have other options to go to aside from Ulamog, then perhaps that's what they do. And I almost feel like maybe that's what they will do, because that way it doesn't completely alienate all the people that bought into the deck. And you can still play it. You just had to find another option other than Ulamog, which is the most powerful option. And you kind of move on from there. I mean, some folks would argue, well, we also saw Nicol Bolas would be a good target, which is coming out in the next set. I don't think that's as good of a target as Ulamog, honestly. So I guess playtesting would kind of tell how powerful that is. We also don't know what other cards are in that set, so it's probably pretty early to make that call. But I think maybe that's the route they go. Now, if they just want to hit the panic button, break glass for emergency, then yeah, they're going to get rid of Marvel. If they just completely panic, basically, and are feeling that they're in this downward spiral that they need to stop, that could be something they do. I guess we'll find out next week. So either way, though, like I said, it's bad for players. If you bought into the deck, it's not cool when they're banning standard cards. I mean, that is not where you want to be. I mean, that's an emergency answer to a problem that shouldn't have been in the first place, in my opinion. But that's kind of where we are. So the lack of diversity in the format is hurting the format. Banning a card will hurt the format. You just can't win, basically. So you just do the lesser of two evils, I guess, and whatever they decide that is. So, and I will say, too, like, before I move on to the next topic, there are a lot of people very happy with the format. I mean, the thing with Magic is it's very regional. And I played in areas where Legacy was thriving. Like, I could play in a Legacy tournament every weekend if I wanted to. And people were there and they'd show up and they had the cards and had fun, and it was awesome. I lived in other areas where there was not a Legacy tournament to be found anywhere, because even if someone tried to hold one, they couldn't get people to come because they didn't have the cards. And it wasn't a thing in that particular region culturally for the world of Magic. So there are pockets out there where Standard is extremely healthy, and that's driven by different stores and leadership among players in stores, or different judges that maybe enjoy the particular game type and share it with others. You know, so I don't want to sound fatalistic about the format, because there are so many places where it is thriving and people are enjoying it. Just overall, when you start looking at things like GP attendance, and you start looking at just all the comments that are out there going through the Twitterverse and everything, that generally there is a displeasure right now in that particular format. And because of that, people are looking at some of these other formats. And that's all. We'll see what happens next week. We'll do a video on it. We'll talk more about it. But I guess that's really my thoughts on that whole topic. So let's move on. Talk about some Magic the Gathering Online. and the 25th anniversary celebration that is coming up. So, MTGO, 15 years. That's kind of crazy. 15 years of the same program. It's changed a lot over the years. I don't know how many of you played it back when it started. Those of you who did will remember this, but I always thought this was really weird. They had like this play lobby thing where like you had these little like digital people, and they looked really bad because it was 15 years ago, sitting at tables, and you would look around and try to find somebody sitting at a table where no one was sitting across from them, and then you click on that table, and that's how you found a game. It was comedy. So anyway, memories of Magic Online. But 15 years later, they're doing some cool things, and I'll link in the description below, I'll link to their article with all the details here, because I'm not going to go through the whole article. But there's some interesting stuff. Like there's some improvements to the program they listed at the end, which are pretty cool. And I'll talk about that a little bit before we move on. But a couple of things they're doing. I mean, two of the things are okay, nice, but one has got me excited. We'll talk about the okay, nice things first. They're doing a extra prize week for many of their events. This is going from June 21st through June 28th. And again, I won't read through all the details, but you can check it out in the description below if you want. They're adding some extra Amonkhet booster packs to prize payouts. So you'll see things like typically you would get 3 packs of Amonkhet. Now you're going to get 3 packs and a bonus pack, so you'll get an extra pack. Stuff like that. So, I mean, that's cool. I think that's nice that they're doing that, but it's not something that, that I felt like they needed to do or anything, but I think it's a nice thing to add on. Sometimes too, you'll get extra treasure chests in the constructed events. Second thing, which is exciting, but maybe expected, June 21st, Vintage Cube comes back, at least until Hour of Devastation returns or comes out. So this is really cool. I love Vintage Cube, but like I said, it's kind of expected because typically we always do a cube at this time of the year. So yeah, we're getting Vintage Cube, and I'm excited for it. Can't wait to play it again. It's always a lot of fun. But I kind of thought it was coming. So there you go. Now the thing I'm very excited about though is their Battle of the Plains that they're doing. This is from June 14th through June 21st. And this sounds actually like a lot of fun. This is something I'm really looking forward to. It's sealed, and it's Phantom, so you don't get to keep the cards. But you get to pick a plane, and the plane choices are Dominaria, Innistrad, Mirrodin, Ravnica, or Zendikar. And then depending on the plane you pick, you get 6 packs from certain designated sets that encompass that plane. So for example, if you pick Dominaria, you get a pack of Onslaught, Legions, Scourge, Time Spiral, Planar Chaos, and Future Sight. If you were to pick Innistrad, you get 2 Innistrads from the original one, Dark Ascension, 2 Shadows over Innistrad, and an Eldritch Moon. If you pick Mirrodin, you get Mirrodin, Darksteel, Fifth Dawn, Scars of Mirrodin, Mirrodin Besieged, and New Pyrexia. Ravnica is Ravnica, Guild Pact, Ascension, Return to Ravnica, Gatecrash, Dragon's Maze, and finally Zendikar, Zendikar Worldwake, Rise of the Eldrazi, 2 of those actually, Battle for Zendikar, and Oath of the Gatewatch. So you build a sealed deck out of those cards, and you play in a queue, so you could be playing against folks that chose different planes or what have you. But it sounds like a lot of fun. Like to go back and revisit some of these sets, especially planes or certain sets that maybe you've had an affinity to. I'm looking forward to. I'd like to try all of them, but the main ones for me probably are Dominaria and Innistrad. I think those would be a lot of fun. Ravnica too would be a lot of fun. Okay, they're all a lot of fun, but I'd be really happy to, really try all of them out. I think it'd be really awesome. So yeah, I'm excited for that. I think that's a really cool idea. One thing I'm curious about though, and it kind of leads into our next topic, is there's been talk about eventually fixing Magic Online or upgrading and basically creating a new Magic Online. We haven't heard a lot about it. I hope and assume it's still in the works, but I don't think they can talk about it until they can come out and flatly say, you know what? We're working on this, but everything you bought in the past is going to be able to carry over. Until they can get that right, they can't say anything, right? So we haven't heard anything, and hopefully they can get there at some point. But I am a little curious about the fact that they're still heavily supporting the old Magic Online, the current Magic Online. And typically when a video game developer moves on towards a new platform or a new, like a sequel or a remake or something, that they really start to pull the resources out of the old and bring it to the new. And I don't really see that. Now, there could be a few different reasons that we're not seeing that. One of which could simply be they're completely different. It's like they've maybe completely outsourced the game to another group of people and they haven't gotten rid of the people that are working on the original Magic Online. Maybe they realize this is bigger than just a normal game, that this is tied in with their paper products so much that they don't want to drop support. So I don't know. I'm just curious to see where they're going with that. However, there was an announcement this week, which brings us to our next topic regarding a MMO based on Magic the Gathering being developed by Cryptic Studios. Now, Cryptic Studios has a pretty good resume behind them. They worked with Wizards on Neverwinter, which is a Dungeons & Dragons RPG, which is currently, I guess, on PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and PC. I've never played that, but it is a free-to-play game, so maybe I'll check it out. I'm sure it has microtransactions, I would assume, but it does say there's like 15 million registered players, so that's pretty good. Also, too, they've made City of Heroes, which was very popular back in the day, and Star Trek Online. So that's kind of exciting. Like, I would like to see this game. I'm sure it will take probably a couple of years in development or what have you, but it is promising that they've already created something based on Dungeons & Dragons. They might be able to use that same engine or something like that. It might cut down on development time. So, I don't know. I guess we'll see. And if you played the Neverwinter, let me know in the comments below if it's good, if it's worth checking out. I've never played it. I haven't been really into MMOs. Like, I love video games, but I played a little bit of Final Fantasy XI many years ago, but I didn't really get too deep into it. And I tried like the DC Heroes one, but again, didn't really get too deep into it. I guess the closest thing for me is Destiny, and I know that's not really an MMO, as much as it's a shared world shooter, I guess. But I played a lot of Destiny over the last couple of years. That is one of my favorite games. So I'm looking forward with the Planeswalker and like all the different planes from Magic. I think that could be a lot of fun. And of course, I'm already invested in that story and everything, so that will help draw me in, as I'm sure it will many people. And really, Wizards has done a great job over the last couple of years of developing these stories and these characters and turning them into things you know more about, care more about. So it really translates well to a video game now. So I do think that's actually pretty awesome. Really looking forward to this. I think that's great. And it got me thinking about E3 coming up next week and maybe what I wanted to see in the world of video games. I mean, I'm a casual player. I like to play things from all different consoles and companies, and not any one console or company that I really spend any extra time with than another over the years, right? I started off, like most people my age, big into Nintendo, right? I love Nintendo. So let's talk about, I guess, maybe what I expect to see at E3, what I'm excited and hope that we'll see. And we'll start with Nintendo, because why not? So I know we're going to see more of the new Super Mario Brothers game that they showed last year. I'm excited about that. I think it looked really cool, and I want to see more of it. So that's cool. I kind of wish we'd get like one other big surprise from Nintendo. I don't really know if we will at E3. They've been very focused on, I'm sure we'll see a lot of Splatoon 2. I never played the first one. It looks cool, but again, I guess I'm just so into Destiny that I don't really want to play, even though I know Splatoon's not a shooter. But yeah, it's kind of similar qualities to Destiny. Especially 2 looks like they almost have like strike or raid type things where you have to work together like Destiny. So I thought that was kind of interesting in the trailer I saw for that. But I don't know. I just never kind of got into that, but I'm sure that will be a big part of their E3. It does look cool, and it definitely even is visually striking, which is good for something to showcase there. What I would like to see is like some sort of revival of an older franchise, like Metroid. I'd love to see a new Metroid game, or Kid Icarus even, or I mean, just so many of those former like the games and characters that we haven't seen in a long time. And we just got a Zelda, so that's awesome. Happy with that. I haven't played that yet. Someday, hopefully soon, I'll get a chance. That looks incredible. And Zelda's probably my favorite franchise of all time. So, we're getting some interesting stuff from Nintendo, but yeah, I just want to see something more. Or what I'd love to see is maybe even if it's not a full-fledged new Metroid game, but maybe like a return to the old school side-scrolling downloadable game, right? Like we've seen that with the Mega Man games in the past. And Nintendo dipped their toe in those waters with those remix games. If you ever played those on the Wii U, they were actually pretty fun. I'd love to see them. And they do that with New Super Mario Brothers. I mean, basically, they're side-scrolling platforms. They look a little more polished on new technology. But, you know, give us a game that's more like Super Metroid, or give us a Zelda game that looks 8-bit or 16-bit. Like, that'd be awesome. So, and I don't even think that'd be really hard to make, quite honestly, compared to a full-fledged, like, AAA title, right? So, I don't know. I'd like to see something like that from Nintendo. PlayStation, I'm sure we're going to see Destiny 2 on their stage, but Bungie showed a lot of Destiny already at their event that they had for streamers, so I don't think we're going to see a lot of new stuff from Destiny 2. I think they like to show their own stuff off in their own events and their own streams and stuff. I think we'll see a little bit, because I think PlayStation's going to pressure them into showing something new because of their partnership, but I don't know if we're going to see that much new that we haven't seen already. They'll probably announce when the beta is. I mean, I would love for them to say the beta's right now, go play it, but it'll probably be like July or something, I think. So that's one of the big things from PlayStation. Call of Duty will probably show up on the PlayStation stage. I don't know. Call of Duty, I mean, they're going back to their roots, but there's just a lot of people that have been kind of bored with gameplay over the last few years. I used to play the game. I loved first Modern Warfare, but I feel like it was kind of downhill from there. So I don't know. I don't know if I'm excited about it or not. I'd have to see it, I suppose. Square Enix stuff, which they could also show up. I mean, they could show up at Xbox or Sony, but they have been pretty closely tied to Sony. So I'd really want to see Kingdom Hearts 3. I think maybe this year we will see more of that. It's been teased out last few years with small clips and stuff. But I kind of hope that now that Final Fantasy 15 has been released, that maybe the spotlight will now move to Kingdom Hearts 3. You don't want to overshadow like Final Fantasy 15 by talking about Kingdom Hearts 3, right? So they kind of gave Final Fantasy the spotlight, and that's rightfully so. But now I think it's time for Kingdom Hearts. Final Fantasy 7, I'd like to see more of that, the remake of that, but I know developmentally it's still going through some challenges. It just got taken away from third-party developers that are working on it and taken back to Square Enix. It's completely, I should say. I mean, it was still their development, but they had other parties working on it for them, and they've taken it away from them. So I'm assuming there were some issues there, but I'm glad it's in their hands now. So I don't know if we're going to see that much, maybe a teaser or something. I'd like to see something, but I do think, again, they're not going to try to sell you Kingdom Hearts 3 and Final Fantasy 7 at the same time. They're going to space those out a little bit, and you probably won't hear a lot about Final Fantasy 7 until after Kingdom Hearts 3 comes out, is my theory, anyway. And, I mean, they just developed all the remakes of the original Kingdom Hearts 2, and all that stuff that kind of come out. So I think this is going to be the year for that. And that's what I really want to see from PlayStation. Last of Us, it'd be cool to see more of that. God of War, it'd be cool to see more of that. There's probably a few others I'm forgetting, so I apologize. Xbox, I think Scorpio is going to be the big deal this year. I first off, here's the deal. I don't have money to put into a PS4 Pro or Scorpio, because since the last couple of years, the channel's been my hobby more than anything. So that's where all my money goes. But even if I did, let's pretend I had a blank check and I could just buy whatever I wanted. I don't know if I would buy either of those at this juncture anyway. I mean, we haven't seen the Scorpio yet, so maybe that's not fair, but I don't have a 4K TV, first off. Now, if I did, maybe that'd be a little different. I don't know. But first off, if it's not playing in 4K for me, because my TV is not there, then the extra processing power and stuff, I mean, it's nice, but is it necessary for that price tag? Especially considering what a few years down the road there's going to be the PlayStation 5, right? And the Xbox 2 or whatever they want to call it this time. You know, so I don't know. It doesn't feel like a good investment to me. I kind of get what they're doing. It's kind of like the iPhone 7 and the iPhone 7S. Like, yeah, that's kind of where technology's gone when it comes to like iPhones and stuff. But I don't buy an iPhone every time, right? Like, and I don't think many people do. I mean, there's some, I suppose, that do. But I think for the most part, you just kind of wait till you need a phone, and whatever is the new one is the new one. But it does keep them in the news cycle, if nothing else. But PS4 Pro, I mean, it's not something I'm going to run out and get. I don't really see the Scorpio changing my mind either. I mean, it sounds like it's going to be more powerful than PS4 Pro, but I don't know. And I don't play a lot on Xbox, quite honestly, because I don't play a lot of games. I mean, I play probably 3 or 4 games all year. Destiny takes up probably most of the time the last year. I've just played a lot of that. And I played that on PlayStation, and that's kind of kept me over there. I bought an Xbox One years ago when it first came out because I wanted to play Halo, and I was a little disappointed in the Halo franchise and what ended up happening with it when it left Bungie's hands and everything. So I didn't even play a whole lot of that. I play mostly like my backwards compatible 360 games on my Xbox One, like the stuff I downloaded on the 360 or just other 360 games. So I don't know, like, I'm trying to think what other titles they have. I mean, I'd love to hear more Halo stuff. I'd be interested in that if they have something to announce there. I don't know if they would or not. I know I'm forgetting some other Xbox titles, though. Off the top of my head, I can't think of anything that's Xbox exclusive, but I'm sure I'm missing something huge. But let me know in the comments below, like, if you are into video games, what you want to see from E3. I would love to see the Magic MMO, but I think it was just announced, so we probably won't see that. That would be sweet, though, if that's a big surprise. I think that'd be actually really awesome. But I don't know, probably next year's E3, maybe we'll see something from that. That would be kind of awesome. Trying to think any other general stuff. I mean, I love indie games. I love to see some other, like, maybe NES or SNES inspired mini games, kind of like Shovel Knight, that type of stuff. I think that would be a lot of fun to just kind of download and just kind of play around with. Stuff like that, I think, would be really cool to see. I mean, the video game industry has changed a lot. You don't see as many AAA titles as you used to because they're so expensive to make. And if they don't do well, it could bankrupt a company. So companies have one or two choices. Take a huge risk making a AAA title and putting all your resources into it and sink or swim. Or make smaller games like indie games. And if one fails, you're not out of business. And the folks making AAA titles even that are taking that risk are mitigating that risk by making sequels, right? Like Call of Duty every year, right? Destiny 2, right? Because you know there's already an audience for those things. You don't have to take the risk every single time you make a game, right? So, yeah, the industry's changed a lot. So, I don't know. I guess we'll see this week. Especially with, it's kind of a new format for E3. There's actually some events on the weekend. I think it's more open to the public and stuff this year than it has been in the past. So, well, those are the topics I have. Now, I think there's a minute or two left in my game against Rich Hagan, if you've been watching. It's 1-1, and Rich's deck is incredible. He had a great deck. He had so much removal. And if you've been kind of watching as I've been talking, you probably saw that I basically everything I put down was getting taken out pretty quick. I managed to win game 1, but game 2, he kind of, I mean, it wasn't a complete blowout, but it just everything that he drew really kind of devastated me. So, and of course, this is the end of game 3, and as you can tell, it's not going well for me right now. So, this event, I ended up going 3-2. It was the first time I played the Amonkhet. But the 2 decks I lost to were incredible. Like, Rich's deck was incredible, and the other deck I lost to was also nuts. It had Nissa, 2 Angler Drakes, Cartouche of Knowledges. It was phenomenal. So that one just completely blew me out. I did manage to take 1 game there too, but it was an uphill battle. The other 3 decks I played, I did win, and they were good decks. Like, I didn't play against anyone that was like just had a really bad deck or a bad pool. I wasn't real excited about my pool. Like, it was okay, but I was missing a lot of stuff. I had really no sideboard options in my pool. Like, there were things like I couldn't deal with, like artifacts I just plain couldn't deal with. And I was in green, so you would have thought I would have picked up something, but no, alas, I didn't. So anyway, I guess we'll just kind of wrap things up by watching the end of the game here. And I'm down to 9 life. And the pressure's still coming. No cards in my hand. And I draw a land. Yep. So this is probably about it. don't remember when I actually lose. I had a couple trials out. If I could have pulled a cartouche, that would have been helpful. And Rich has another play. Oh, it's Glorybringer. So yeah, I think this is where the game ends. So, yeah, his deck was awesome. Like, good for him. I mean, awesome deck. I wonder what his record was with this in the end. I had already lost 1 when I played him, so he was probably, I think at this point, 2-1, maybe. I don't remember offhand, but yep. There you go. And there's the GGs. There I am, typing the GGs. And there you have it. But but it was cool. I'm glad I got a chance to play him. Because like I said, I have a lot of respect for the work he's done for Magic. He gave me the cheers. Very nice, very nice. But yeah, I have a lot of respect for what he's done. So, hey, anyway, until next time, thanks for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe, and have a great day. Hey, thanks for watching. This video is made possible by the generous support of viewers like you on Patreon. Check out the description below for links to our Patreon page as well as our Amazon affiliate store, where a small percentage of all sales will also help support the channel. Finally, if you haven't had a chance yet to subscribe, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any new videos on Heroes and Legends. Talk to you again soon, and have a great day.